Welcome and thanks for tuning in and listening on your favorite podcast listening app. Carm Capriato, the Aftermarket Podcast Guy, with a very important episode on assessments. Now, if you've ever struggled to make a quality hire, one that fits in with your team and culture, then you must invest in the time right now to absorb this panel's discussion. Hey, two great partners bring you this new episode today, Apex and Shopware. Hey, I know many of you love to go to Apex to buy equipment for your shop, and guess what? You still can by attending the virtual Apex experience, November 3rd through the 5th, 2020. Hey, there's also going to be great training, both management and technician. And it's all FREE, free. Register now at aapexshow.com/register. Did I say free? Hey, now more than ever, you're focused on bringing cars through your bays safely and efficiently. Shopware's shop management system offers a completely contactless workflow, an important need right now. Your customers can review, approve, and even pay for the repairs right from their smartphones or personal device. It's time. Request a demo and see them in action at getshopware.com/carm. Hey, look, your people make your business successful. Now, in this age of information, job fit, high validity assessments, they support managers in their pre-hire, onboarding, succession planning, and leadership development processes. With me are two experts and two shop owners who have had great experiences using assessments as a tool in their hiring system. They've turned their hiring success rate upside down. In this episode, you'll learn the importance of two different assessments and how hiring with this knowledge will help your business leverage and streamline your hiring process and find great matches to enhance your team. Now here's a taste.
It brings our industry to a different level. Most of the technicians aren't used to that. They've never had assessments done. And so now all of a sudden you want to do all this stuff in the hiring process, and we slow that hiring process down a little bit. And, because we all know how the old day was, right? You had them lined up. You had a stack of applications. Now you get a application. So you better make sure you're hiring properly.
On the panel is Dave Schedin from CompuTrek Group, Bonnie Schedin from Numa Advantage, a division of CompuTrek Group, shop owner Carlo Sabucco from Sills Complete Auto Care Center, and Mark Simons from Rolf's Import, two locations, Lakewood and Fife in Washington State. Hey, are you watching the new show AftermarketWeekly.com? It's a live show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time. Every episode is available on the website, and you'll find really fun and interesting topics, all aftermarket focused. And we get a guest each week and includes a shop tour. We've been to shops all over North America, and you may just take a great idea from one of them. AftermarketWeekly.com. We are here to serve you. And a show like this in hiring and assessments may just make your next hire one that will integrate into your team and stick around for a long, long time. Hey, a warm welcome to a fabulous group here, very professional credentials. In fact, two of them are shop owners just like you, and that qualifies them to be here. We're going to talk about assessments. And please don't discount the fact that assessments are critically important. I've got a great group here with me. Dave Schedin from CompuTrek. We did an episode, Dave, 555 together. And, when I was done with that, I titled this thing, If How-Tos Were Enough, We'd All Be Rich and Skinny. Remember that?
I do. That was a fun. And thank you again for having me back and having the panel back.
It was great. Now we're going to talk about assessments. Your wife, Bonnie, is here. How much did you pay Bonnie to come on here with us?
Actually, I think she paid me to be here. So,
how much is it going to cost you?
Yes.
Numa Advantage division of CompuTrek Group, and Bonnie is an assessment practitioner, an HR professional, and partner and wife of Dave. Nice to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. This is my very first podcast. I'm nervous, but I'm excited to share.
Well, let's not let it be your last. I know that we're never going to do justice to the value of assessments in a business, okay? So maybe we need to have you come back on again, just maybe me and you, and just do this. Mark Simons is with us from Rolf's Import out in the great Northwest. Hello, Mark.
Hi, how are you doing? Yeah, Dave, Bonnie, Carl.
Two locations, a major part of ASA Northwest, and you inherited the shop from your dad?
Oh, I didn't inherit. I purchased it from my father. So I retired him.
That's what I would have thought. When I see always the word inherited there, I'm sure that, you don't get dads going kicking and screaming and just say,
no,
you'll have to wait till I die to get this. No, I got it.
No, we paid him to stay away.
And you had to pay back the allowance, huh?
Yes.
Someday, Mark, this will all be yours.
That's right.
You've probably heard that before, right?
Yeah, exactly. For a price.
And Carlo Sabucco is with us from Sills Complete Auto Care Center in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. Hello, Carlo.
Hi, Carm. Hi, everyone.
Great family business. And I want to go on record to say that he's a top 10 fan of the podcast.
I am.
I hear from him occasionally. Thank you very much for filling my commute time. And what's great about Carlo, and you've been a great contributor, you've, at least I know of, have been on five podcasts with us. And if you like what Carlo has to say, please look up Carlo Sabucco on the website and listen to his stuff. Okay, I'm a big person with assessments. I've had my fair share in corporate America as I wanted to know more about myself, and the company that I work for wanted to know more about me and my tendencies and communication style and leadership style. Why, if corporate America does all these assessments, do we as a automotive aftermarket, small, $1 million, $4 million, it doesn't matter what size business you are, why, Bonnie, is this becoming more critical?
Well, it's kind of that iceberg effect. It's like it allows you to see inside of your candidates, inside of your employees, and get a really good look what's underneath that bright, shiny, smiling face that presents itself in an interview. And honestly, it just helps businesses to leverage and streamline that hiring process by positively affecting the company's bottom line and getting more activated, engaged, and more productive employees, which, of course, are the lifeline of any business culture.
Activated, engaged. I love that. And, Carlo, you and I were on an episode about ghosting. Do you recall that?
I do. Yep.
We always blame ourselves when someone doesn't show up for the job. And it's almost like, Bonnie, and I'm not sure if I'm right about this, but you could almost possibly discover that you may have a no-show based on what you see and read in the assessments.
Absolutely. You can do a pre-assessment, which really identifies 4 key areas within that individual, and then you can go from there. That's just a really inexpensive, quick, 10 to 15 minute Johnny on the spot type of thing. And you can find out quite a bit. And then once those numbers, that scoring comes back, which is immediate, and you'd be able to tell whether or not you want to continue in the interview process. It gives you some really great questions to ask based on how they answered the things in that first assessment.
I want to challenge the thinking here. If we're hiring a person with the right skill to do the job for us, diagnostician, A-Tech, B-Tech, service advisor, the work in the back of the shop with the right skill, does the assessment weigh in more or less than a service advisor role?
Having coached a myriad of different shops using the assessments, these particular assessments since 2010, actually 2008, what I found is that they're just as critical for the back, what we call the back end, the technicians, shop foremen, even the parts, if you have a parts department and that. It's very critical there because it's something, and Bonnie can speak a little more to this, but this assessment is not a personality assessment. Personality doesn't tell you how they're going to behave. This is a job fit assessment. And while we could talk all day about the features of the assessment, the context of the purpose of the assessment is, am I attracting, did I find a top performer in the areas of behavior that are actually going to produce results? Personality may or may not give you how they're going to behave. For example, for a service advisor, you could have somebody that's lively, bubbly, open, very personable, people skills. But then there's 2 critical things for a service. Actually, there's 9 critical behaviors, but of the 9 critical behaviors that it measures, there's 2 that are critically important. One of them is their pace. they're nice and friendly and bubbly and connect on a human level, but their pace is very, very, how do I choose the word, conservative. It's very slow paced, so to speak. And they can only process based on, maybe one or two things at a time. Whereas we need an top performer advisor is going to process 15 or more repair orders a day and close 6 to 8 at 4 to 4.5 hours per repair order for a top level of service advisor. And so you can interview somebody, they're going to give you a great interview, be friendly, but you don't know what their pace is. And so personality, it's kind of a get you on the map, but it doesn't tell you the destination of what that top performer is.
Let me use the word full throttle. I was just talking the other day about full throttle people and how hard or how fast they go. Again, I hear you. Bubbly, but yet they can't get the work done. And that's the behavior part that you're looking to assess. Carlo, any personal experience in using assessments for that kind of discovery?
Oh, yeah. And Dave's right. When we think of assessments, there's a number of different various types of assessments out on the market. The ones we use with Dave are specifically for, hey, what type of technician or what type of advisor are we looking at? And yeah, I've gone through and used the assessment for a number of years, and exactly what Dave just said. Something like pace, a prior hire had a low pace, and it's exactly what Dave said. I also made a mistake by hiring because all the other criteria were right, but they had the slow pace, but that's what caused friction between the other employees and myself, and that person's no longer with us. The assessment is a tool for us as owners to put the right person in place the first time around.
It's a tool. I've done the hiring with tools like this team, and we had to be careful that wasn't the only reason we were making the hire. Can anyone speak to that?
The assessment should account for maybe a third of your hiring process. The validity on this is very high, 99.9%. It has a distortion rate, which tells you whether the candidate is answering the questions in the assessment, consistently. I just feel that when you partner with this particular process, with this particular job fit assessment, you get these validated reports and on-point questions to select from during your interview process. So if there's something you missed the first time, based on their answers, you can do the second assessment, which is a much larger, measuring these 9 behavioral traits that are going to show up in that particular pattern. There's a cognitive measurement, verbal math questions, and then is it really a passion of theirs? So there's 3 different areas that it measures. If there is something that they're answering that is outside of the pattern that you want for your candidate, or even to move a succession planning with an already existing employee, those interview questions will be in direct alignment with their answers. And it gives you, the shop owner, added confidence to elevate and activate a greater understanding of this individual. And that significantly supports coaching to produce top level performers and then actually achieve the results that you say you want.
Carm here. Coming up, learn about how assessments can bring your managers to the next level. Hey, auto repair is a high-dollar, high-value transaction, and your customer sensitivity about how much it costs and why is never more important than when you ask them to pay the bill. While these conversations can sometimes feel awkward or uncomfortable, it's important that you don't fall down and cheapen your services at the final step. Shopware's shop management platform now offers a solution that helps you showcase the value and sophistication that you've invested throughout the repair. With our innovative digital workflow, customers can review, approve, and even pay for services right from their smartphone. Let remote pay work for you and improve your customer experience. Get started today. Visit getshopware.com for more information and to request a demo. Hey, Carm here. Now, I know many of you go to Apex to buy equipment for your shop, and it's a special part of the reason you attend Apex. And guess what? you can still buy by attending the virtual Apex experience. Hey, write these dates down, November 3rd through the 5th, 2020. You simply use our virtual platform to set up one-on-one meetings with suppliers and manufacturers, and you conduct business from your shop or at home. They thought of everything. And there's more, at no cost. Yes, Virtual Apex is no cost to you, and you'll have the opportunity to sharpen your technical and management skills with training classes led by the best of the best in the industry. All the training is geared toward shop owners and technicians, along with service advisors. However, all aftermarket professionals are welcomed to attend. Virtual Apex is a perfect opportunity to get training for you and your entire crew without spending anything. There's also additional training on new product and equipment demos by some of the big names, including Autel, Bolt-On Technology, Bosch, Garage Gurus Drive, Hunter Engineering Company, Kukui, and Napa Auto Care. Register now, aapexshow.com/register. Hey, don't miss out on this unprecedented event. Be part of it. Mark, are you supporting all the things that I'm hearing here?
I sure am. I know I've used different types of assessments as well, and what I like about the ones that Dave and Bonnie do is what Carlo said is they kind of match them up, and because Dave's background in automotive, they have already kind of a scale of what most technicians should score like and what most service advisors should score like, what most shop managers should score like. And so they kind of put that in the graph already, so you can kind of, hey, most general automotive technicians score this way. So, hey, this person scores real well comparatively. So, these are the type of questions you could ask them. We're in the process right now of actually in the hiring process. And so we found that I just started that first process that Bonnie was talking about, that short assessment. That's somewhat new to me. I've always done the full assessments and not the partial. It worked real well on finding out if we should go to the next step or not. And even with some, maybe they don't assess the properly and they're not the highest scores where you'd like to see them on that. But with the questions it asked, it comes out, and it was really neat to find out that, why did he score so low on this? And you read through, and the questions asked would be like, most people lie to get ahead. That's one of the questions, right? And if the person agrees that most people lie to get ahead, that person probably would lie to get ahead as well. And you can even ask the question, why do you feel that way? And to be honest with you, it comes out, well, in my career at the dealerships, my experience is that is true. And then they give you the experience of it. And so you know what? You can actually almost turn that person around sometimes on thinking a little differently and of why they feel that way.
If you were hiring me and I said yes to that, but you still like me and there were still reasons to bring me in for a second interview, and you said, hey, you said that people, lie to get ahead. What did you mean by that? And I said, in the dealership, I watched this happen all the time. Now, I didn't agree with it, but I have to agree that everyone around me got ahead because they lied. Would you still consider me based on my answer?
It depends on where your atmosphere is. I guess, I haven't worked in dealerships myself, right? But in 20 years, I've kind of been around a lot of people that have worked in it. And to be honest with you, they kind of all have the same feeling, right? That you lie to get ahead, they cheat, they don't do this, everyone gets a radiator. Stuff like that happen. You don't see in the independent world so much, right? So for us independents to, well, you know what, maybe that fits into some of the things I've heard. Maybe I will go on to the further assessment anyway to get more into that, because maybe coming into the bigger assessment, maybe there'll be some different, challenging answers that come out of that.
I'm not picking on dealers. I just it was just the example that we used, and actually a good example.
Carm, if I may, what may bring some clarity is that first assessment measures 4 different areas. It measures honesty, integrity, work ethic, reliability. Are they actually going to show up for work? Are they going to bring to completion? And then depending on the state you're in, we can ask substance tolerance questions. It's not a drug test, but they're questions around their tolerance of drugs in the workplace. And what I've discovered, and there's a scale in this particular assessment of 1 through 9, and obviously 9's ideal, 1 not so much. And when I first started using these assessments in the marketplace in the automotive arena, I noticed that we got a lot of 6, 7, 8s, 9s. We got a lot of that. But over the last probably 7 to 9 years of using them, it changed. The younger generation started scoring lower. And it wasn't that you wouldn't hire them, but now you know what you got. And you know that you're not just going to bring this person up in the automotive career. You get to mentor this individual. And I love Bonnie being here, and I love a lot of the other women that are in their industry. It's giving it the needed boost that it needs, because it's been one-sided, male-dominated. But what I've found is that a lot of the applicants are male. And with that younger generation, what I've noticed is it seems like they had a lack of a mentor, and that usually points to a lack of a good father figure in their life. And so as I'm coaching shops now, one of the skill sets that most shop owners and managers need is their ability to be a mentor, not just know how a shop isn't profitable. And so the questions are really critical in identifying that. And I'll let Bonnie speak to this more, because it's not just a hiring assessment. She alluded to, it's a coaching assessment, not just for coaches, but for the employer or the manager, the owner, to coach that person.
What I think I just heard, Dave, is that as you bring on a client or even consider a client, would you put them through these assessments?
Oh yeah, we actually have a top performer pattern. As Mark alluded, we have some benchmarks for every position in the company, including a shop owner. Who do I see as I've worked over the last, 14, 15 years as a coach? I've identified top performer shop owners, and it's not the same as a top performer drivability tech. And as we know from, if you've read the E-Myth, most shops are started from a technician mindset, and they try to make that work in an entrepreneurial world, a managerial world, and it doesn't. Top performer shop owners, which, by the way, Mark and Carlo are right up in there. And so we have benchmarks that we can go by. And it doesn't mean you don't, as Bonnie suggested, succession planning, it doesn't mean you don't bring your son or daughter up in the business if they're not a certain level of match. It just means you know what you have to work with.
What I learned a long time ago is that in many cases, I couldn't have my conversation with someone who was kind of a direct opposite of me. If I wanted to respect them and I wanted to get something from them, it couldn't be my way. It had to be their way. And I had to learn how to get that from them. And these assessments help you integrate a team, integrate a person. Am I right?
Absolutely. It helps you create that ecosystem that is healthy. And I really think that's an important word in today's society with the types of individuals that Dave was referring to earlier. So it identifies, these assessments will identify people who have the highest probability of being successful in a role and provide practical recommendations for maximizing their performance. So, for instance, we have like 8 or 9 reports just by completing one assessment. So, and that's the larger assessment, the second one. So this coaching report gives you pinpoint, again, accurate interview questions and tips directly related to areas that new candidate or even a current employee are outside of a top performer pattern for any one position. So the shop owner or the manager can take a step back and says, okay, there's a huge invidious comparison here between the pace that I need and the pace that I want. Am I ready to move forward with this individual and pull them up to that area, that top level performer that I need them to be? Do I want to invest the time, the effort, the energy, the training, all of those things you get to know ahead of time before you hire them? So it also clarifies like some additional training that they might need.
Let's think about our industry. I do assessment 1, I do assessment 2, and I get a coaching report. And I say, oh my God, I got to work with this person. They're exactly what I need, but I got to spend time. Hell, I just hire them and forget about him. And then 5 years later, I give them a watch because they've been with me for 5 years. You mean I have to develop my people?
When I first started doing the assessments, I'm like a lot of shop owners. I'm in the business. I'm not an absentee owner. So when you lose people, it really causes a lot of stress. When I started using the assessments, I thought it was a silver bullet. Run them through the program. If they check all the boxes off, they show 98% on the bottom, make a hire, call it a day. And then when we start talking about ghosting and starting changing the interview process, that's all evolved in my place. And the questions in the Q&A started becoming different. The assessments would help me fill in the gaps. It's training. I've worked with Bonnie and Dave, and they teach me more about the coaching questions. And then now it's become the assessment evolves just from the hiring protocols. We use the assessment now to see how to blueprint out a wage program that suits what they're after, what their behavior, what their attitudes are like. No, is it a performance structure, or maybe they're an hourly performance structure? Because I can get that data now because I've learned from the assessments. And now when we talk about coaching and mentoring, that's exactly, I'm going back to the assessments all the time with my shop foreman, with service advisors. Okay, they've done something wrong. I need to correct. How should I talk to them without frustrating them? Or should I even mention this to them? I use the assessments as a coaching and mentoring tool as we go along. I've got one person, we did the assessment 10 years ago. I still pull it out every time we do a performance review to remind myself how to deal with this particular individual.
That was my thought process too. We talked about the assessments being used in the hiring process. You'd be surprised, like Carlo's saying, how many times we bring that assessment back out when we haven't been challenged by the employee as well. Because now you're going back and say, well, there it is right there in the assessment, just like it said it would be. What are some of the challenges or some tips that I can use? Because you don't want to fire the employee. You just want them to, you want to understand and get back to where we're all being successful, right? That's the whole goal of it. And that's, I think, is the coolest thing about the assessment, and how many times, and even to my service managers, they'll be, I'm having problems with this staff. I'm like, go grab the assessment. There it is,
I
right
love that.
there.
That's great.
To everyone's point, listen, we're a profession. And we have to invest in our people, and to get the coaching reports that help, get us a little closer to the time we invest wisely, instead of trying to be an expert HR person or an expert, assessment coach. I love the idea that you just brought it up, Mark. Okay, it's time to sit and talk. They want to come in and talk to me. Okay, great. Hey, I'll see you in an hour. You open up the report and you refresh yourself with their tendencies, their communications, their traits, all the things that we've just been talking about, and some key questions that you need to ask, and sit on your hands and listen.
Along those lines, I have a story, and it does involve Mark. Mark, do you remember the first experience you had with the assessments?
I was trying to think about that, Dave, because you talked about 2008 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say it was somewhere right about there that we started doing the assessments. It was really early on.
I want to share just a quick story of my experience with Mark and the assessments. And it's one that, believe it or not, Mark, I tell this story all the time. And so Mark and I were first kind of meeting and as a coach and we talked about assessments, and in one sense, he bought the shop from his dad, but he inherited the technicians that came with that. And he was having challenges with one of the techs that wasn't performing like he used to do under his father's leadership. And so I said, well, Mark, we need to do the assessment. The assessments will reveal maybe what's going on there. I said, so we need to do an assessment on you and an assessment on the technician. And Mark's response was, well, let's just do it on him. And I said, well, Mark, it doesn't really work that way. You got to see where you're different in that. He goes, no, let's just do it on him. Okay. So we have the technician take the assessment. I go through, I give Mark the training, and then I got called up into the Toronto area. That's when I was first meeting Carlo and the guys up in the Oakville, Ontario and Toronto area. And so I'm out of the picture of the Northwest in a sense for about 3 or 4 months. And I come back and I follow up with Mark and I said, how did the technician do now? Oh, you're not going to believe this, Dave. He's so much better. I mean, since that assessment, I can't believe he's producing more. I think you almost said he was like almost an hour more a day after the assessment. I go, really? Did he read the assessment? And you said, well, no, I never showed it to him. And my question was, Mark, who changed? And it came down it came down to awareness of your employees and identifying how they're uniquely, wonderfully gifted and created. You can see, oh, no wonder I'm clashing. I'm speaking my language, which is men and women are, women are from Venus, men are from Mars. They're different languages. Once you know their language and you understand that person, your judgment goes away. The negativity that you brought in, the frustration, oh, that's just how they're wired. Okay, well, now that I know this is their baseline, I can work with that.
Quick story to tell, and I'll try to tell it within a minute or less. Been through these assessments, realized who I was, didn't know the controller of the company that I was working for, but assumed they were a high conformity person, always had to be right. And I was, kind of a high extroversion person with some dominance. And here I basically told the person that I thought their numbers were wrong. I had learned what the assessments were. I learned the power of them, but I had that stubborn thing that happened to me. Mark, I had to learn how to change to get what I wanted from that opposite person of me. It's a great story, Dave, and boy, could I relate to that.
One of the things that I think us as a company in coaching that I really appreciate so much is that the assessments reveal a certain amount, but there's the human intuition in our experience. And that's what I love about Bonnie's got so much experience that she sees these assessments in a whole new light that I had never seen before. So I had to have a serving of humble pie and eat some of that because her insight was like, wow. And with the assessments now, and Carl, I don't remember if you remember the training that we gave before and now the training with Bonnie. Do you notice a difference in what the assessments reveal to you now?
Oh, yeah. The information that gets provided from it. And yeah, Bonnie's taken the time now to educate me on how to read the assessment properly. So that's a big important factor of knowing how to read the information and understanding it properly.
We're talking about the employee managerial fit, and who doesn't want to know what that fit is going to look like? Yeah. And just again, doing that one assessment gives you another report where we can do your whole staff, we can do team, we can overlay patterns and see how the manager and the new candidate is going to line up, what they're going to like. Those are critical aspects that we need to know going in the onboarding process of compatibility between managers and their employees. So that particular report, it offers like an in-depth look into their approach to learning, 6 critical dimensions of compatibility, the self-assurance, conformity, optimism, decisiveness, their objectivity, are they intuitive? And all these are related to solutions and how they're going to provide a solution to the actual vehicle. Are they creative in their solution?
Carlo, Mark, you're doing some high-level interviews and you really think you got a great candidate in your hand or one or two, and you ask to do an assessment. Is it a struggle or a challenge to get an individual to jump on board with that?
It brings our industry to a different level because, most of the technicians aren't used to that. They've never had assessments done. And so now all of a sudden you want to do all this stuff in the hiring process, and we slow that hiring process down a little bit. And, because we all know how the old day was, right? You had them lined up, you had a stack of applications. Now you get a application. So you better make sure you're hiring properly.
If they fog the mirror, you just don't hire them?
No, exactly. Well, if they come in, they get an assessment right away, and we can figure out what we got to go, right? But it's very important, and I think it brings the level to where we're hiring professionals, and we should treat them like professionals. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to get a professional job, there isn't a professional job you're getting out there that isn't having assessments done, right? So we're got to make sure that we're that's what our industry needs at.
We're also selling in the interview process. If this is a good candidate, there's 2 questions that I have in my interview process. No, tell me what a perfect world looks like if you worked at my place. And they go on and say, I'd like this and this and this. And then the second question is, tell me about your frustrations. And at the end, when you present them the opportunity for the profile and the assessment, as a mentor and a coach, the answer is those 2 questions I asked you in the interview. The reason why we do the assessment is to help coach and mentor you so not to have frustrations and to give you the perfect world environment that you seek in this business. And it's that assessment that helps me.
That's so good, Carlo.
When you ask to do the assessment, you're explaining the why.
Always. The interview process is never one-sided. I explain the answers. I ask them why I'm asking those questions. So, for example, tell me about a perfect working environment. Well, I want to be in a happy place. I want to get along with my friends. And tell me about a frustration. Well, I don't like bad communication. Well, when we do the assessments, I can look at the assessments and see that maybe their pace is low. Maybe their decision-making process is low, which means they're going to get frustrated every time they're forced to make decisions. Well, you tell me a service advisor that doesn't have to make 110 decisions a minute, or a diagnostic technician or a general tech who has to make decisions all the time. If they're low in that area, it's going to be frustration. What's going to happen? The owner's going to get frustrated, say he's not good, fire him, start over. Everybody knows the cost to hire is extremely expensive nowadays.
Yes.
So the cost of the assessment and learning how to use it the right way allows you to develop a better culture within the business from the start.
So when you ask for the second assessment, there's never a pushback. I mean, because they were sold on the first.
They want it.
Do you provide a summary report to the person?
I give a copy of them, but when we are ready to hire, we do a written offer. And most of the time I want them in, and we do the assessment, the 1-page review, and we talk about line by line of the assessment, what it means, why I'm going to look at it, why it's important for them to look at it. So if they score low in an area, this is going to cause us some problems possibly in this business. So how can we work together when we onboard you to get around this? And I've gotten better and better at it. The last hire has been probably my best success at using the assessment the right way, because we've gone through step by step using the assessment, not just once, but constantly using it as all the way along the onboarding process.
How do you use it the wrong way?
You look at it and essentially like I used to do in the past is, you look at it and go, well, they're a match, you're hired, and then not read the assessment and go pace or thinking style and go, okay, yeah, that was a waste of money.
You're skim coating it essentially.
Yeah.
But what I love what you said there, Carlo, is that you're reducing the employee turnover. So people don't typically quit the companies, they quit their bosses. So it's like during times of changes in organizations, it's easy to overlook the things that are important, like personal fit, like job fit, chemistry, culture, all those, buzzwords nowadays. And one of the reports, again, that you could get is an individual report, which has no numbers on it. And it just basically it's a mirror that you can give to the person that took the assessment and said, here you go, read this over and tell me if this is you. And you'll know if you get into resistance with them, you'll know that they just, they're going to be harder to coach.
Hey, Bonnie, that's funny you said that. I had a story of, I always shared that in that report that you have, right? And usually people read it, that's not me, right? And they go home and they throw it down on the table and their wife grabs it. What's this? Oh, that's that stupid assessment they made me do at Rolf's. And she starts reading, this is exactly you. She's like, what? And then it was told back to me. He goes, I took that thing home last night. And my wife said, this is exactly me. But I guess, it is me.
I chatted with Bonnie earlier in the week. I can't remember when it was, Bonnie, and I told her my story that when we were learning how to do these assessments, and there was an envelope put in front of me in this class with this PhD that was teaching us about behaviors, and they told me to open it, and I did, and I started to read it, and I got my head, and I'm shaking, and I'm going, no. I'm saying, no. And the instructor came over and says, what's wrong, Carm? I says, these are all the things that Ann says about me. And I keep telling her she's wrong.
And we have a hard time accepting things about ourselves.
Yes, we do. I so enjoyed this, but I think we need to do a round 2 someday. We'll just keep this thing going. But Bonnie, I want to find out if I wanted to get an assessment, how would I get one?
You can reach me at numaadvantage.com and click on the buttons in there.
It's Numa, P-N-E-U-M-A. I'll put it in the show notes, numaadvantage.com. Get in touch with you. If people wanted to get on board with assessments, but yet they had their own coach, are you okay to do business with someone?
Absolutely. It's a very simple thing to set up, and it's instant. And the minute that the candidate or employee is completed, it gets scored. I've often worked into the evening to support businesses, to get them back right away so they can read them and make decisions and then have the candidate in the next day. So
even during a move.
Even during
a move.
Yeah.
That has been known to happen. A couple
days ago, I'll try my best, but it got out right away. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
Okay, the assessment comes in and I read it. And here I am just starting out, wanting to bring assessments into my business and to make them a standard bearer of my hiring process. I can't be an expert to understand how to do questioning and follow up. Is part of doing business with you guys a little bit of support?
Oh, it's a lot of support.
Yeah.
We would be there to walk you through that process. We put aside an hour to, review it with you so you do understand it, that you're reading it correctly. I mean, most people don't have all the insight into behaviors on first crack. So, it's really important to understand what the language is around hiring a top performer for your organization or for your small business. It could be a mom and pop operation that just needs support, and we're definitely there for them.
I started using these in my coaching and training career, and these would have been such a great asset because I used to do the steam on the mirror assessment. They're breathing. I can use that. It's been said that the most hiring decisions, believe it or not, most hiring decisions have been made in, I think it's like 4.5 minutes. It's that quick that somebody says yes or no. And they miss the golden people and they don't hire the right person. They see fool's gold and they hire the wrong person. It brings such clarity. It's like this, and having been a former tech, a shop owner, now a coach, coming from such a strong technical background, I did drivability. I love drivability. One thing I loved about drivability when they came out was scanners, and I could see the data. This is human live scan data you get to see. It's 9 behaviors. It's not all 9 behaviors that are part of our human condition, but it's a critical tool to be used. And like Bonnie said, it's about a third of the process. You still do background checks. You still do interview. Some people do team interviews. Carlo does the ghosting. I mean, there's so many different things that are part of an onboarding process. So we help a company develop that. And like you said, okay, I'm just starting out in this. We give the support for them. We coach till they understand the assessment. We typically reserve an hour. I spent 2 to 3 hours with a client just to make sure they got it, because I want them to win. I don't want them to say, okay, well, I gave an hour. I hope you get it. We coach to the result, not coach because we finished our words, if that makes sense.
It does. Carlo, any final words? I mean, obviously, you've really turned your business, or at least your hiring practices, around with assessments.
A shop owner friend of mine from in the Burlington area said to me about a year ago, he said, the ultimate goal is for me is in HR is to build the dream team. And you know what? I took that to heart. The assessments allow me to build the dream team. I'm going to hire a top level technician. He'll have the credentials to be a great shop foreman and a shop mentor. If I'm going to hire a service advisor, they're going to be a great mentor to lead other service advisors I bring in. And I need to know where they stand with me. So inevitably, the objective of a why the owner wants to do this is really, we just want to build the dream team. Because it's going to take all our stress and a lot of our pressures away and allow us to run the business and not be in the business. So why don't we use a tool to start it off the right way?
I'm sensing from this is forget about the hiring. Let's just take the people we currently have, learn about them, learn about us. Okay, yes, implement it for the new hires. But we have to assess the team that we have, because there's some gold out there that we're probably not watering enough.
Well, that's a mandatory to do the existing stuff.
Mark, any final words?
No, I pretty much agree with both what Dave and Carlo said. We've been doing assessments for a long time and building that team together. And when you find that you bring people in with similarities to each other, you tend to have that dream team because everyone's got similar goals in mind and they kind of drive themselves together, right? So it is easier once you kind of have that. You don't have the person spinning it by themselves out on the outside. You know, they're all kind of working together.
Hey, Bonnie, you're our HR professional. I'll give you the last word.
You know, I think that oftentimes we hire to the level that we're at personally. And I think that business owners, shop owners that want to break through those ceilings really need to look beyond themselves and kind of go beyond that ceiling. And you want to hire somebody that you can move within your organization. You want to support each other. You want to create relationship. All these are really important things. I mean, I think everybody agrees that we were designed for a relationship, and that translates into relationship with your customers, that translate into relationship with the car. It's all connected. We're all connected. And so the assessments just gives us that leg up. It just gives shop owners that boost, those managers, some great language and insight into how to get that a little bit quicker and just to see things from that 30,000 foot view perspective a little quicker.
Thanks so much, Dave, Bonnie, Schedin, Mark Simons, Carlo Sabucco. Thanks for being here. This was great.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Carm.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.